Yeehaw! We are off and running. Welcome, Coronado Rotary, to another exciting episode of the Coronado Rotary Club meeting on Wednesday afternoons in the brightest place on the West Coast. We will lead off with Invocation and Pledge with Jane New.
Jane New, that's you.
Hello, Jane. Oh, well, if you have an invocation memorized, you can do it, or I can provide one myself. I'd be happy to. Well, please join me in a moment of spiritual thought. So I think I'll tell just a short story, and maybe some of you have heard it before, but it was about it's about a woman walking down the beach one day, and a beachcomber is walking the other direction, and he sees this woman, and the beach is all scattered with starfish. And as he's walking towards this woman, she reaches down and she picks up a starfish and she throws it into the ocean. And she walks a few feet further and she picks up another one and throws it in the ocean. And this goes on for yards and yards, and as this man walks closer and closer to this woman, he finally stops to talk to her, and he says, "What are you doing?" She says, "Well, I'm picking up these starfish and throwing them into the ocean so they can live." He looks down the beach and he says, "Well, my God, there's millions of them out here. How can you make a difference by throwing, one or two in there?" She looked out at the horizon there, and so she reaches down and she picks up one and she throws it in the ocean. She looks the guy in the eye and she says, "Well, it made a difference to that one." And that woman was a Rotarian. All right, would you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
War Eagle.
Thank you. All right, past President Dan Orr, visiting Rotarians and guests.
Thank you, President Bob. We have but one visiting Rotarian, and he's an honorary visiting Rotarian, our guest speaker, John McCann. When you get to be mayor, you get to be the honorary. All right, guests of Rotarians, on my left, your right. Carol Summer made the last Rotary magazine.
President Bob, fellow Rotarians and guests, I have a special guest, Simon Lovell. President Bob, fellow Rotarians, I have a very special guest, Sarah Kulke. And a guest of my special guest, another guest, is Rusty Horse.
Hello, President Bob and fellow Rotarians. I have a very unique guest. We have President of our Interact Club, Dylan Burke. Please stand up. And you'll be hearing a lot more about Interact in the months to come.
All right, Rob. Rob Taylor.
Thank you. Now that I have a mic. President Bob, fellow Rotarians and guests, here for the third time, counting his speech to us 2 years ago as our speaker is Eric Nelson. His paperwork is in, and we'll be seeing him in front of us pretty soon. Eric?
I think that's
Yeah, one more.
One more.
President Bob, fellow Rotarians and guests, my mom, Missy McCann.
Yay!
right. Put a fork in us. We're done.
All right.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Good group. Thank you, past President Dan. All right, let's see. Red Badgers today. We have a good assembly. Nat Bear, stand if you would, and let us, where'd Nat go? I know he's probably out front still. Yes, all right. Suzanne Fromps, there she is. And Andrew Gade, where'd Andrew, there, where's Andrew?
He got busy with work.
He got busy with work. You got busy, okay. Tom Miller, who is joining us for his last introduction to the Red Badger. Amanda Manier. All right. And Jerry Moss. All right. Joseph Farrell is with me at this table over here. And JT Greenlee. Okay. And Chris Shearhorn. Okay. And I think I got everybody. Did I miss any Red Badgers? Okay. All right. Nora Allen, would you join me for care and concerns, please?
Yes, thank you, President Bob, fellow Rotarians. Thank you, Carol, for always saving me a seat, so I always have a mic close to hand. I have some wonderful news to report. You notice that there's one cheerful smile missing from this room, and that's our very own Doug St. Dennis. She had to have some heart surgery yesterday, and all of the reports so far are coming out that she is in good shape. So we will hope to have an update next week on when we can have her back. Thank you. I'm going to be passing around 3 cards, and one of the things I would ask for you is just to, if you're the last person at the table, either find me or bring them to the front so that we can have those for Doug as soon as she gets home. Thank you.
President
Thank
Bob,
you, Nora. Yes?
Ed Lowline had been in the hospital, and so he's out and home. He had an infection, and anyway, but just so you keep him in your thoughts.
And he's doing well now?
He's doing okay. He's got a
Okay.
long path to get everything fixed.
Oh dear. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Tom, and we'll keep Ed in our thoughts and prayers. All right, let's go to announcements. All right, coming up, welcome to November, and stand by for clock changes. We all want those, right?
Yeah.
November is didn't we vote to not do that anymore? I guess it doesn't count in California. All right, well, wind them up, and Saturday the 11th is going to be a busy Rotary day. We're going to have the beach cleanup at 7:45. So if you're in that committee, that's where you'll be, at the corner of Isabella and Ocean. Or you can march the avenue there on Orange, starting 45 minutes prior to that, 7 o'clock up and 4 o'clock down. We'll put the flags on the avenue and to commemorate Memorial Day. Veterans Day. I'm trying to think of it. They changed the name of it, shortly after the First World War. So. All right. Okay, so that's what we got coming on near term in November. So Jerry Brown's Celebration of Life will be Sunday, November 12th at St. Paul's Methodist Church. And JT, do you have anything to add to that at all?
Just a reminder that St. Paul's parking lot is pretty small, so look for street parking, come a little bit early, or walk. That's a novel.
You can do that.
Join me in walking there. But no, we look forward to welcoming Rotarians to join with the church and the community to celebrate Jerry's life.
Thank you, JT. Let's see, next slide, please. Okay, so we have some great stuff out there, and you can order it. They have a lot of samples there. Please see Sue Ryan or Marty on the way in or the way out, and get branded with our local Rotary stamp. Next slide. Okay, the holiday lunch is coming up, and Ann, did you want to say something about that?
Thank you. I'm here to give you a save the date announcement for our holiday party, which will be on December 13th this year at the Coronado Yacht Club. It's going to be a fun and festive event with a few new activities, so we hope you'll join us and save the date for December 13th.
Thank you, Ann. Next slide. Ho, ho, ho. Okay, Suzanne Manuel here. Oh, did you want to say something about the Warrior Foundation?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
You have your own microphone.
I have a couple things to say. Thank
All
you
right.
so much. We have two great partners with our club that need our support. So the first one is Camp Surf fundraiser they're having this Saturday down at Camp Surf. Super casual beach thing with great food and music. So if you possibly can, we've got at least a table. There's about a dozen of us going. But if you'd like to go, sign up and give us a call. Give me a call, and we're doing carpools. So I hope you can do that. The other thing, the Warrior Foundation Freedom Station is having their radiothon to get all the wounded warriors back to their homes for Christmas. And so the radiothon, they need some help, and that's the 9th. Maybe we can put that in the coordinator. 4 to 7, they need us to answer phones. So if you can do that, we're going to get the carpools and go there, and they're going to feed us dinner. So if you can do that, it'd be wonderful. And give me a call. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Past President Suzanne. Next slide, please. Okay, IB Food Bank. And Sue Ryan, did you have anything to add to that other than more to come?
Jenny may. Jenny, do you want to?
There she is.
Are we on? So the food pantry is requesting things to make it special for Thanksgiving for the people in IB. And so if you would please, we're gonna send a email out soon with all the list of things that we hoped you will buy for them. And then we'll have our regular monthly delivery on top of it. So hopefully this will be a really good month for them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jenny. All right, next slide. Those of you that like to get shots, okay, little audible here. So they're no longer 65 and above available, but they're coming. So stay tuned and go get your COVID shot. Get them both. And get your RSV shot while you're there too. You can get your flu shot and your COVID shot at the same time. And the flu shot, right now, they, as I say, are short of the 65 and over, but Nora will advise me as soon as they are available. All right, next slide. Paid political announcement, and Doug has actually paid for these announcements as a non-Rotary announcement, but don't show up at her house because she will be convalescing at that point. This has been moved to the front of the library if you're participating in the Stars on the Avenue on November 4th. Okay, next slide. All right, how many skiers do we have out there? Raise your hand, come on. And how many are members of ISFR? Okay, if you put your hand down, you need to go join this outfit. It's so much fun. We go every year. We dominate it as the Coronado Rotary Club. And this year we're going to Bend, Oregon and Mount Bachelor. And I've skied there before and it's a blast. So if you got any questions on this, talk to either Steve Dermeyer or me or Marty Helmers, who is now she's kind of taking the baton from Steve on this, and it's going to be a great time. All right, let's look at what happened last week. Happenings around town. Go. Had lots of cool stuff. Okay, we had Fisher House visit, and Dave Johnson, Tom, and Meredith and Amy Stewart all went down there and bought a bunch of supplies and delivered that. Well received. Great job, you guys. Next slide. And the IB Food Bank, you've got Sue and Luann went and picked up all of that stuff and delivered it, and the staff there loves that so much. They really appreciate what we do for them. Thank you guys. Great job. Okay, next slide. Halloween. Wasn't that fun? Look at these guys. So thanks to John McCann for leading that up, and Pat Freeman and Janice and Suzanne Manuel and Sarah Sheverton. They're all dressed up nicely, looking good. Next slide. Yeah, just a rewind to last week to look at all the blue badgers that turned into red badgers last week. That was a great show. Okay, so next slide, and we had our first alternate meeting in a couple of years now, and this picture jumped out at me. So, what do these four Rotarians have in common? Oh, there's lots of military in here, but these guys are special. They're all handsome and worldly. Okay. They've all flown single-engine Navy jets. They attended last week's alternate meeting, or all of the above. What do you think, Tom?
I know we went to the meeting.
Yeah, well, that's not one of the distractions.
I know we're all handsome.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and I think they all flew single engine at some point, but I don't know. I don't think so.
So you're going with D?
I'm gonna go C. I'm going.
You're going with C?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe the answer actually is D,
No,
as in dog.
no, they're not all. No.
You know, I think everybody flew single-engine Navy jets. Not all the same kind of jet, but either an A4 or a T-45.
T-45.
All right. So let's go to the next slide, and then we'll wrap. So that was a great time. Do you have anything to add to that, Tom? About last?
You know what? It was a joy. I got to tell you, and the people that came, I think, had a wonderful time. I want to thank Sarah Sheridan and all her people that stepped up. They were phenomenal, and so that's all I got. I had such a blast doing it. Thank you, President Bob, that I was able to do it. So.
Well, and it sounded like it was a great time, and the next one will be in January, so stay tuned to that one. Okay, last slide I have is just a reminder that we do have a couple of spots still left on this Father Joe's breakfast on Wednesday the 15th. So if you're interested in participating in that, see Bob Griffin if you would. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to turn it over to Luann Miller, who is going to induct our newest Red Badger.
All right, thank you, President Bob, fellow Rotarians and guests. So the induction of a new member is indeed a great opportunity to welcome very special people into our club. I would like to introduce Sarah Kulke. She is a good friend of both myself and Jean Marie Gallagher, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Jean Marie to introduce Sarah and to give us her classification.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and President Bob. Sarah's classification is clinical research. Can you hear me okay?
A little closer, just a little closer.
We met through mutual friends on the island, and there was an immediate connection. She is a physician doing clinical research at Johnson & Johnson. She will be great serving as she has already participated in numerous activities, beach cleanup, and service projects. Sarah's true north has always been to make a difference in her community, helping others. What a better way to do it than to be a physician and a Rotarian.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah, we welcome you to the best Rotary Club in the universe, which is linked to our global organization of volunteers dedicated to improve the world. Our club thanks you for your willingness to share the values of service and fellowship in Rotary. A new member in our club means fresh ideas, new enthusiasm, and greater fellowship that leads to super service. One of your major goals in this club is service above self, which means participation by saying yes when asked to serve, hence becoming part of our amazing people of action. And I do know for a fact that Sarah will be one of those people. So Sarah, I've got couple questions for you. So the first one is, what was your primary motivation for joining Rotary?
Thank you, Past President Luann. Thank you, Jean Marie. My number one motivation was I just really wanted to hang out with all these amazing people, right?
what a group. And I'm very privileged to be at a point in my life and in my career to have both the time and the resources to give back to my favorite place in the world. This is where I was born and raised, and anything I can do to make Coronado and the greater San Diego area better, I'm up for that.
Yay.
So, what are the 3 favorite things you like to do? And I know I can say number 1, Island Bear Club, so we can check that one off.
The 3, well, I am a mother, so I love spending time with my children. I'm also just a doctor, right? Once you're a doctor, you're just a doctor. And so, like, any time I have the opportunity to help another person, that brings me great joy. And spending time with an amazing life partner, Rusty Horse.
Yay.
There you go. Okay, it is with great pleasure and on behalf of President Bob, our Board of Directors, and our members that we welcome you as the newest member of the Rotary Club of Coronado. So if Jean Marie, if you want to present and pin on her pin. All right, yay. Okay, so fellow Rotarians, please stand and give a warm welcome to Sarah Kulke, our newest Coronado Rotarian.
While you're up here, Past President Ryan, you want to just hang out for one more quickie?
Hey, I won't even go there. Okay, so Tom Miller, I think I know him. I can take off, as his sponsor, I can take off his little red sticker. And I don't do that to everyone. So
I was going to say, that might be a first, actually. But I like it. Maybe we can institute that for future red badge converters. We'll work on that one. Karen Strabel, are you?
And there she is.
There she is.
President Bob, fellow Rotarians. I am our youth exchange chair for our club and also with the district. And I wanted to share that we have our information night next Wednesday. There's a flyer on all the tables. We market this with our Interact Club, with the high school, through local media to let them know that we're hosting this. It is going to be at the high school. If you have a neighbor, child, a grandchild, someone who might be interested in traveling abroad, doing it through Rotary is the most cost-effective way to do it. We do sponsor long-term exchanges where the kids are here for the school year. We also have short-term and summer camp if the kids just want to do something during the summer. Another way Rotarians can get involved is by being a host family. Rob and Mary Taylor are our all-time #1 host families, but it's a great way to meet the kids. We are going to be hosting a summer camp this summer that will take place over the 4th of July weekend, so we're always looking for host families for that. And as many of you have met our kids throughout the years, we always have them come to a concert in the park so many can meet them, and they do service projects while they're here, and it's just a wonderful experience. So if you want to find, as a Rotarian, more out about Youth Exchange, please come next Wednesday night to the multipurpose room at Coronado High School at 6 p.m. It's a quick hour, great information, and please, this flyer is also on our website under Youth Exchange if anyone wants to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, it is not very often that we have a guest speaker who is introduced to our club by his son. But today we are going to have that honor. So John McCann will be introducing John McCann.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. It is my honor to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, a man who not only holds a significant position of service in our community, and the community of Chula Vista, but is also very dear to my heart. My father, Mayor John McCann of Chula Vista. He's a dedicated public servant. He's worked tirelessly to improve the quality of life for all of Chula Vista residents. His military and public service exemplifies Rotary's own motto of service above self. Today, Mayor McCann is going to share with us all the amazing things that he's been working on, and many people have been working on for decades at the city of Chula Vista to make it a really great place for all of its people and for even everybody in San Diego to enjoy. So please join me in extending a warm welcome to Mayor John McCann.
I think you're his brother, I don't think.
Well, I think you're right. They always think we're brothers, but he's always the better looking brother. So.
Go, Brent.
I am John McCann. Thank you, President Bob. Thank you, my awesome son, John. And then, obviously, my beautiful wife, Missy, is here also, so please give her a round of applause. Chula Vista, my father, when he was a young naval officer, decided to look to buy a house, and he saw that he could buy one in Coronado for $35,000, or he could buy one in Chula Vista for $27,000. So he bought the one in Chula Vista because it was cheaper. Yeah, I know. And the house I think that my mom still owns is probably in 800,000s, and the one that in Coronado is probably 3 million. So. But it just shows you everything. But we're here to talk about the great exciting things that are happening in Chula Vista. Do we have a clicker or?
No.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
You can pass that guy. And go ahead and we can pass the budget. Chula Vista, when I grew up as a child, was about 60,000 people, or in the 60,000s. We're now 277,000 people. We are the second largest city in the county. In the next couple years, we'll be well over 300,000. In 10 to 20 years, we'll be over 350,000. We have 25%, or we have 20% of the developable land still left in the county. You go out to south, you hit the border. You go to the east, and you're going to hit the preserve land. You go to the west, you obviously hit the water. And if you go north, the Marines are going to stop you. So they're really, most cities, including Coronado, La Mesa, are all built out. So the only way to continue to grow is through cities like Chula Vista that actually have some areas of opportunity to grow. One of the things, when I grew up in Chula Vista, our bayfront was all industrialized. And we wanted to go ahead and change that. We want to make sure we still have a working bayfront, but we want to make sure that we had the opportunity for people to enjoy our bayfront. You may know this, but we're one of the only cities in the world that when you get closer to the water, your property values actually go down. Normally it's just the opposite, because again, our city was built in the 1910s to 1970s on the west side, west of 805, and our housing stock is older and needs a lot of upgrading. And then we have the industrial base. So we had Roar Industries, which I love tremendously because my mom, as a single mom, worked at the Roar factory for almost 30 years. Then we had the power lines, and we had the power plant there. And so we were able to underground the power lines, and then we were able to actually blow up the power plant. And we really did blow it up. And now, I was very fortunate in 2003, I was on the city council and we master planned the bayfront. So 20 years later, at the speed of government, we finally have the Gaylord project under construction. Has anybody ever been to a Gaylord project? Yeah. Okay, I see those smiling faces. It's interesting because I'll go to different organizations and talk about the Gaylord project. And people go, okay, that's nice, you're gonna put a hotel. But the people who've actually been to a Gaylord hotel know the quality of it. It's a 5-star hotel, convention center, and it is just gonna change the entire face of the west side of the city of Chula Vista. With this Gaylord project, go to the next slide, we have the Amara Bay project. The Gaylord project is only a hotel and resort. South of that, though, we're gonna have the Amara Bay project, and that's gonna actually have housing. And this will allow us to have diversity of housing in the city of Chula Vista on the west side. On the east side, has anybody ever been to East Lake?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I see smiles on there too. East Lake essentially are the quintessential perfect master plan communities. For 10 years in a row, East Lake was the best new home community in the county. You go down there, and it's amazing because I would work up in Sereno Valley, people in Poway and everything, and they wouldn't have a really good impression of Chula Vista. Believe it or not, in 2016, we did a poll in the county because we're trying to attract businesses and look at the image of the city. And in North County, over half the people had a negative impression of the city of Chula Vista. And then over half the people that had a negative impression had never been to Chula Vista. And we believe, again, with our changing of the bayfront, if people do come down, when I would work in Sereno Valley, have them come down to me, down to East Lake, and they would go, wow, this is better than my neighborhood in Poway. And I go, you bet. So there's a impression that we're gonna hopefully be able to change that. Amara Bay is where you're gonna be able to live. Again, when you look at our older west side, are a lot of low income areas. The east side with East Lake, a lot of middle class and higher income folks. And then what this is gonna do is it's going to allow us to bring in that new or upper income, so we have a diversity of people living in the city of Chula Vista, not only on the east side and the west side. When we did the master plan communities on the east side, the goal was to be able to house people all the way from the mailroom to the boardroom, and we were very successful at that. Amara Bay, this was going to be very transformative. You're gonna have high-rise ownership of condos, but then you're also gonna have restaurants, you're gonna have mixed use, you're gonna have a way where people can go down and really enjoy the bayfront. Go to the next slide. North of this is the Bayview project. This is right next to the trolley line. This is gonna be mixed use. You're gonna have all the way from affordable to market rate housing. You're gonna have a medical center there, mixed use retail. And the great thing about this is that you're going to be able to have people actually ride on the trolley and go directly into the medical center. As well as if you live there, you can get on the trolley and go straight to work either downtown or along the trolley corridor. So it's the quintessential smart growth development. When you add the Bayview, Gaylord, and Amara Bay, that's over $4.5 billion of reinvestment in the city of Chula Vista. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Perfect. One of the issues is I was talking about when my dad bought a place in Chula Vista. I was very fortunate when I was able to buy a place. I always tell people that when I could only afford $105,000, and we negotiated from 150 all the way down to 110. And so to make up for that $5,000 missing, I had to have a card table as my dining room table for 5 years. I had to go without cable. When I got married with my wife, that's still something she still brings up today after 25 years of marriage. We did not get cable because we had to save up for another house, right?
For 8 years.
I think she can actually say not just 8 years, but how many days too? So, but nowadays, when you look at home ownership opportunities, we call it the missing middle. For those who are wealthy enough, you can buy a house. For those of you who are low income, you can get affordable housing. But there is not good entry-level affordable home ownership opportunities in the county. Sunbow came to me. They said, hey John, we would like to rezone this area from commercial and industrial and make it high-rise apartments. And I said, well, that's nice, but we don't want to do that. We want to provide entry-level home ownership. And so this went back and forth for years, and I was finally able to get enough votes. It was a split decision, but we were able to win. This will be 100% home ownership. It will be 718 new residential opportunities for people who are getting into the market for home ownership, who are first-time home buyers, who are police officers, nurses, people who want to be able to make a stake in the ground in Chula Vista to actually buy a new property. And when you look at people, the biggest wealth that they will build in their lifetime is through home ownership, and that gives the missing middle the opportunity to be able to buy something in Chula Vista. The next project here is has anybody ever been to the Chula Vista Shopping Center, the old Sears? I know Fred has. A lot of people over there. So I have to be very, very transparent. That Sears was the Sears that created my hate of shopping. After church on Sundays, my mom would bring me down there, and I go, Mom, I don't want to spend a lot of time here. And she goes, no, we're only going to shop for 5 minutes. 2 to 3 hours later, we'd finally finish. But the Sears was an icon in Chula Vista. In the late 70s, early 80s, it was one of the best performing Sears in the entire United States. Obviously, that has come and gone. They went ahead and again, a builder came, purchased the property, and what do you think they said? Hey, John, we would like to build high-rise apartments. And what do you think my answer was? No, I'd really like to create some home ownership opportunities. So we were able to again negotiate, work with them, and we were successful in being able to get them to do affordable home ownership for townhomes. 244 market rate houses that will be coming out next year. So it'll give people the opportunity to actually, in the entry level, afford some home ownership, build generational wealth, and be able to build equity. Also, this is a great spot because the mall, it'll be right next to the mall, and the mall is expanding and doing well. I still remember my other son asking him what he's doing for the weekend, and he goes, I'm going out to Santee. Now, is there anybody from Santee here? Okay, I can say this then. I go, what's out in Santee? And he goes, Raising Cane's. And I go, what is that? He goes, it's a restaurant. And so they would drive all the way to Raising Cane's, go out to Santee, and then come all the way back. So I said, okay, I've got to be able to attract Raising Cane's into Chula Vista. And so the Raising Cane's is here. When I was younger, and I got elected in 2002, and Johnny obviously was much smaller at that time, and so I'd drag him along to all these ribbon cuttings and all these groundbreakings. And then when they got a little older, when they were teenagers, their dad, they became and said, no, Dad, that's not cool. I'm not going anymore. And so for years, I would not have my kids go with me to these events. And then, right before we're gonna open Raising Cane's, my oldest daughter said, "Hey Dad, I hear you're opening Raising Cane's in Chula Vista." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Dad, can I go to the ribbon cutting?" So we were able to get all the kids to go for about an hour or two. I was finally the cool dad again, so it was fun. Go to the next.
What is Raising Cane? What kind of food?
It's Louisiana chicken style. So come on down and to Chula Vista. We'd love your tax revenue.
What do they serve?
Everything.
Here's
Go to the next one. This is Rotary, so we're not allowed to talk about alcohol, right? Go to the next one.
I think we are. That's Rotary. Wine tasting, right?
Over the years also, in the South County, we have over 500,000 people. We have no four-year university. So since the 90s, we've been working on being able to collect land. So each time Otay Ranch, the developments of East Lake, Rolling Hills, they would build their community, they would also donate some land to be able to build a four-year university. The city's collected over 383 acres to build a university. And we are now building a library, thank you for the state money, that will, 2 of the stories will be able to allow us to have an annex from a college, whether it's San Diego State, UCSD, or another nonprofit university. And we will then hopefully look for them to then grow into the 383 acres in the city of Chula Vista. Chula Vista, we've done a great job of being a residential neighborhood community. In the morning, especially before COVID, we'd have about 80,000 people get in their car and leave the city to go to work. We want to be able to have people not just live a quality of life in Chula Vista, but have a good work life in Chula Vista. So we've dedicated over 100 acres as an innovation district to be able to attract companies in to the city of Chula Vista. And having worked in Sereno Valley, I know that many biotechs in Poway, Sereno Valley, they actually have their manufacturing south of the border. Well, Chula Vista, if you put it in our innovation district, it's 5-10 minutes to get south of the border, 5-10 minutes back. So it's a great location, and our land is cheaper in Chula Vista than it is in Sereno Valley. So we're really looking forward to trying to attract high quality, clean jobs in the city of Chula Vista. One of the biggest issues, you all may know this, is, has anybody been down to downtown San Diego? Yeah, and what do you see? You see these tents, and it's sometimes hard to be able to even walk on the sidewalk. Chula Vista, obviously, we wanted to be proactive. One, we had already enforced the right-of-way, so we would never allow anybody to put their tents on the sidewalks. But we also knew that we had a growing homeless population. I'm going to say something very politically incorrect, but when I was grew up in Chula Vista, we only had one homeless person, and he was from Bonita, and I apologize, but they would call him the Bonita Bum, and he had family in the area, but he just lived wherever. And then about a couple months, they would, when he was growing a beard and getting long hair, his family would take him in, clean him up, and then they'd put him back out. Now, you've seen it not just in Chula Vista, San Diego, but throughout the entire state. And homeless is a major, major crisis. So we wanted to be proactive, and we created the first homeless shelter in South County, and the first homeless shelter that actually is the Little Homes shelter. When we looked at other homeless shelters in San Diego, there were 3 things that we found that we thought that we could improve on. One is, whether you're sheltered or not, you still want to have security, right? So we said, hey, we're going to build these tiny homes, and you can live in the home and be secure. 2 is that you have possessions and you want to make sure that they're secure. So with the tiny home, you can have your possessions in the house, as well as we allow them, if they have more stuff, they put it into a locker. And the 3rd one is one of the more interesting ones. A large amount of homeless people have a pet. And when you look at some of the homeless shelters, they don't allow you to have pets. So we allow people to have pets. And we have 66 units of homeless or tiny shelters. One of the shelters is used for our nonprofit CityNet that does the management of it. They're experts at being able to help homeless. They provide wraparound services. Being homeless is not a one-size-fits-all problem. People have drug dependencies, alcohol dependencies, mental illness, financial issues, family issues, and a combination of all those. And so what we do is we have caseworkers from CityNet that drills down, identifies what is the best way to help these people get back on track, be able to get permanent housing, and be able to become part of the society again. Okay. Go to the next one. Okay. So, give you a little, anybody from Chula Vista here still? I know we had one. Yes. So the question on the Chula Vista trivia is, what famous pop star sang about losing their mind in Chula Vista? Sorry, I didn't have a more positive question. Any guesses?
Eric Clapton.
Eric Clapton?
How about Jimmy Buffett?
Jimmy Buffett? No. But he did go to Coors Amphitheater many times in Chula Vista. Go ahead to the next. It's Adele. Go to the next question. In which Chula Vista staple food establishment has the following phrase, "Patience is the essence of fine Mexican food"?
No.
They sell burritos, tacos, rolled tacos. Any guesses? Not Taco Bell. Lolitas. And they started in Chula Vista, and they also were the ones who created the California burrito, which, as you know, are burritos with French fries in it. So. And with that, I'm open for any questions. Yes?
When you say entry-level home ownership, about what price range?
That's a great one. When I talked to Sunbo originally, this was years ago, 5 years ago, and I still remember when my wife and I bought our first house in the 200,000s, and we thought, that is so expensive. And then when I was negotiating with Sunbo, they said, oh yeah, it'll be entry level, they'll be in the 300,000s, right? And now the market has changed, so there'll be market rate, but probably in the high 400s, 500,000s. It's amazing how expensive things are. But in the market, that is the entry level. We've worked with Sunbo to be able to have a priority for first-time home buyers. We don't want people to just come in as investors to be able to buy them. We want to make sure that new families, people who are never owned a home, will have the opportunity to buy those homes, because that's really what we want. We want people to move into Chula Vista and to grow roots, and then as they do well, then be able to build that equity to then move up to other houses in the neighborhood. Good question. Good question. Yes?
I remember some years
Yeah,
ago.
Jimmy Buffett question?
I remember some years ago Gaylord was in the news. previously.
Yes.
And I'm familiar with Gaylord.
And I was just curious, whatever happened to this years ago when it was in its infancy? What happened? It seemed like it had something to do with workers or unions or something like that back then, which kiboshed the city's plans. Am I right?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, again, 2003, on the city council, we master planned the Bayfront. The gentleman who unfortunately has passed away, but when I would go back, when I first got on the city council, I would go over to my mom's house, and he would come over and tease me that I was on the city council now, and he'd always say, "How's that Bayfront's going?" And I go, "We're moving forward on it," and he'd just tease me because he'd go, "You know, that Bayfront project has been around before you were even born." And it really has been over 60 years since they've wanted to develop the Bayfront. So essentially what happened is we were able to attract Gaylord, and for a while there's a lot of things underground and behind the scenes and everything. But ultimately, what happened was the union labor said, we want 100% union labor or a project labor agreement, or we're gonna not do the project, or we're gonna kill the project. And so Gaylord, being from Tennessee, said, okay, then we're out. And then obviously, then the recession of 2008 happened. So then things came around. I was in the Navy Reserves. I got mobilized 5 war in Iraq, was on the school district, came back to the city council, and we were able to successfully bring Gaylord back. And we were able to negotiate with the union labor saying, okay, last time you said you wanted 100%, so you got 100% of nothing. And we were, wanted to be able to have a collaboration and work together with the stakeholders. And so we were able to work something out where it was a mutually beneficial to all the stakeholders. And so we were able to get Gaylord back, and they're just really excited to be back. And so this is sort of our second swing at it, but I think we're gonna hit a home run.
Yeah, the state has mandated that Coronado produce at 912 housing units. We have one vacant lot that I'm aware of in Coronado. You have 20% of the land. Can you help us out?
I would be happy to, and actually it's, I could sit down and talk about the RENA numbers and everything. I support local control, and it's not a party thing. I think you're gonna find both sides of the aisle. If you're in local government should have more control. The idea that Coronado and Chula Vista are different cities, and Marietta is different than Chula Vista and Coronado, and every other city has their unique land use, and what fits right in Marietta does not fit right in Coronado, and what fits right in Chula Vista does not fit right in Coronado. And so this is the quintessential Sacramento wanting to not really understand what's going on in the local government and what's happening in each one of these individual cities. They just want to paint a broad brush. Unfortunately, obviously some people have to change that, but I agree. I mean, I think what the state is doing and everything is just unreasonable and just not realistic. I mean, we can't have somebody come down and just say, okay, well, we want affordable housing. Everybody's house is now gonna be $100,000 and you're gonna only sell it to $100,000. Well, that isn't, it goes against the market, it goes against our freedom, all these things. But we would be happy. We are one of the few cities, we don't achieve all the arena numbers, but we're one of the few cities that achieve a lot of our arena numbers just because we've built a lot of affordable housing. And again, we've had a good mix where it's affordable, middle income, and higher end housing, because that's the community we want to be. We want to be able to have somebody, when they move to East Lake, when they're starting out, they can afford it, and then when their family grows, they can still afford it, and when they win the lottery, they can buy a mansion. Good question. Yes?
With all of the new housing units you're building, what about the school system? Do you have to expand that as well, or do you have the facilities for all the new families?
Sure. That's a great question. In our newer communities, we have what are called the Mellows and CFDs. So when we master planned East Lake, it wasn't just the houses, it was the roads, it was the parks, it was the schools. And one of the great things about East Lake is everything's well proportioned. So you're able to make sure that you have all the amenities that people want in a community. When you look at our older neighborhoods on the west side where I grew up, you don't have the parks. People would, back then, in the 1950s, they just built some houses, but they wouldn't build a park. So when you look at it, we want to increase more parkland. And that's why it's so important to be able to do our bayfront, because we're going to use, I'm dedicated to using some of the revenue from the bayfront to be able to invest back into the infrastructure in our older communities. You have areas that don't have sidewalks, you have areas that don't have, basic amenities that you would think would be standard. And then obviously the schools are the same thing. The schools on the west side, we have many people who are getting older and many people who their kids have gone away. So we still will have the new developments still do the Melrose and the facilities bonds, but the schools on our west sides are actually looking for more kids. So they have excess capacity, and I think it's really going to be a good balance. Plus they'll get additional revenue to be able to then improve their schools and where they're at. Good question, great question.
With
Yes,
the expanded
yes.
housing that's happening in Chula Vista, what's going to happen to I-805 and I-5 that are parking lots now at rush hours?
Sure, that really great question. We have also what's called a toll road, right? How many toll roads, or how many cities have toll roads in the entire county? One. Chula Vista, right? And so what was happening is that, long story short, when I came back from serving in Iraq, Sandag, or our toll road, had actually gone bankrupt. And so at that time then Sandag, so the toll road was built for $1 billion in the early 2000s, so I'm sure it'd be $5 billion now. And Sandag actually bought it out of bankruptcy for $350 million. And the interesting thing was, I wanted to say, okay, well, why didn't we just make it a free road? And the idea was in 40 years, the freeway was going to be, or the toll road was going to become a freeway. And what happened was, I kept trying to dig down, and Sandag's sometimes a challenging organization, and I kept trying to basically get some information. I'm a finance guy, I have a master's degree in economics. This was sort of my spot where I thought, okay, I could really help. After sort of saying, hey, if you don't provide me this information, I'm going to just start doing these record requests, they finally provided me the bond information. And so for $350 million, they had to be able to purchase the toll road. Now, anybody in real estate, what's a good interest rate to buy a house right now? 7%, right? And would you think like 10 or 12% for a bond would be a bad thing? Yeah. What do you think the Sandag, in their great wisdom, thought they would be a good interest rate to buy the toll road at? 16, 17%, right? So they bought the toll road with junk bonds. And not only did they buy it with junk bonds, but after 40 years of paying off those bonds, they would then have a $100 million balloon payment. So the finances were upside down. So my goal as a council member and now the mayor is to pay off the 125. When you look at what's happening with the 805 is that you have a whole bunch of people from East Lake avoiding the toll and driving to go down to 805, and that is overly impacted because of all those East Lake folks going on the 805. In addition, what's happening is our western citizens are sitting there going, well, the 805 is too impacted, so instead of going on the 805, I'm going to drive all the way down to the 5, which over impacts the 5. If we can, when we do get the 125 to become free, suddenly you're going to see a decrease in traffic on the 805, and then that will then spill over to the 5. And it's amazing, if anybody's an engineer and knows about traffic, even decreasing your traffic by 10% could mean a world of difference. And that's one of the goals. So right now, we were able to refinance the junk bonds at Sandag and get rid of the $100 million balloon payment. And so the estimated date is that we'll be able to have the balloon paid off in 10 years. So we're very hopeful that we'll be able to do that, but we have to be careful with Sandag because it's sort of a trust but verify thing. And so the other thing is we also looked at the price points. And I used to say, you know, hey, not many people would go down to McDonald's and buy a $5 Big Mac, but with all the inflation, I think that's becoming a regular thing now. But if you were to charge $50 for a Big Mac or $2 for a Big Mac, who would sell more? You'd sell more Big Macs at $2, but not only that, you would sell more Big Macs, but you'd also make a profit on all those Big Macs selling at $2. So you want the right price points. I was able to work with Sandag to change and decrease some of the toll because, again, we had it where when we properly did the price points, we'd have more people using the 125 instead of the 805, and it would reduce their charge, and it would actually, in the long, or ultimately, the Sandag would actually receive more revenue. So by decreasing the price point, we actually had more people use the road and increase the revenue to pay off the debt. Good question. Can I do one more, or are we out of time?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd like to do is actually stop the meeting and then offer an opportunity, anybody that wants to stay and have additional questions or discussions, I'd like to do that. Can we do that?
Yep, I'll stick around, finish your meeting, but I'll stick around until I get the hook from the wife. Be happy to talk about more stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor McCann. So nice to have you with us, and it's, we love to see what's going on in our adjacent communities, and we're all kind of related here in the South Bay. So thank you so much for coming to speak with us. I will end the meeting, and after I do that, Mayor McCann has offered to stay on for additional questions or discussions. Next week is going to be an exciting week. We'll be at the Coronado Cays Yacht Club, and retired Admiral Scott Swift, former commander of the Pacific Fleet, will be our guest speaker, and he'll be addressing Indo-Pacific security issues, specifically what China conflict and competition is and isn't. So we'll look forward to that next week. In the meantime, yes, Past President Tom.
They might be interested in his call sign.
Well, we'll address that next week. We're gonna keep everybody on suspense in that one. And in the meantime, I invite you all to not take a sunny day for granted. And today's a great case in point because it's beautiful out there. Have a wonderful Rotary week, and remember, service above self.
Help